I went from 75 people in the development and product organization to 200.
Wow. What was the period of time, Deb? Because that's a
2 years.
big. Okay, so it took 2 years for you to get that. I mean, that's still crazy.
Yeah. Well, it was actually 1 year. So we had to hire everybody in the first year. And then in the second year, they had to be productive and churn out this commitment that we'd made to have an award-winning solution being run as the basis for automating PS, helping these huge brands like Google and Siemens and Amazon and HP and Dell, and the list goes on. That is amazing.
I mean, you've built the standard that these global companies run on.
Exactly.
Isn't that wild to think about that you did that? Like, it's crazy.
It is. But the team, it's like the team.
No, of course. But it started with a vision that you had and a passion to solve this problem. So yes, it's always the team. I get that. But this episode isn't about the team. It's about you. And so let's just acknowledge the fact that without you chasing this dream and being so maniacally focused on this is the outcome, all of the people, all the companies would benefit from it. Welcome to the She's So Sweet podcast, where we interview accomplished women who have worked their way to the C-suite. I'm your host, Christy Falteruso, Chief Customer Officer and award-winning customer success executive. I am so thrilled to introduce today's guest. I've got with us Deb Ashton, who's the founder and Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Operations at Certinia. Deb, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Honestly, I've followed your kind of career trajectory. I've been watching along, and obviously given the conversation that we had before we hit the record button, I think we have a lot of really, really good stuff to dig into today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it as well.
All right. So before we get started, let's lay some foundation for our listeners. Let's tell them a little bit about yourself and obviously, share a bit about your role and kind of what you're doing now at Certinia.
Sure. Okay. So, today at Certinia, I lead the customer experience function here as well as operations. So I've got this internal, external role, and I run various programs that allow us to understand the sentiment of the customer, the experience that they're having on their journey with Certinia, and where there are opportunities for us to improve and sort of further hone that experience. So the customers ultimately, at the end of the day, have the best experience that they can have. And so this internal part of the role, I run different change programs. So based on what the customers tell us, I'll run change programs that allow us to continually evolve the products and the services that we deliver here at Certinia to the customer. So that'll take me down different paths depending on, what we're learning from the customers at a particular point in time. But because I'm also one of the original founders, I also spend a lot of time working with our executive team, with our investors. I sit on the Certinia board, and I also work with many executives from some of our customers as the sponsor for their success here at Certinia.
Now, I know Certinia's been around for a lot longer than people might be aware because it was FinancialForce beforehand. So tell us about that, because it started as FinancialForce, which honestly, that was the brand I was more familiar with even, before I learned about Certinia.
Interesting. Yeah, we did switch names actually in 2023. But we started as FinancialForce back in 2009. And we've been around now 16 years, and I can remember that date because my middle son was born the same year we started Financial.
You were very busy, very busy that year.
Very busy year, 2009. Yeah, but actually, it was a couple of years prior to that we actually started building our first product on the Salesforce platform. And we had this amazing opportunity to launch FinancialForce alongside Salesforce as they were launching Force.com. And our mantra as we were taking FinancialForce to market and telling everybody what we were doing was we are going to do to ERP what Salesforce did to CRM. So that was back in 2009. Yeah. When we started very much from a financial management perspective. But as we've grown the organization and we've built out the product portfolio, we've invested a lot of time and and our professional service automation solution, so PS Cloud we call it. And that's now our flagship product. But that came out of an acquisition actually in the early days of FinancialForce back in 2010. We acquired this product called PSA, and it's just been such a huge growth accelerator for us based on the organizations that we've been able to help automate their professional services businesses. So that was a very exciting time.
Now, obviously, you've been part of this journey for 16 years, but I assume you've had a bit of a career before that. But before we even get into that, we're going to rewind it even further back, Deb, because, I love to ask everybody. I have to make an assumption, and I'm always going to assume because my assumptions have never been wrong yet.
Okay.
This isn't what you thought you were going to be, right? Little Deb growing up, I'm sure you had different ideas of what you would be when you grew up. So what did you think you were going to be, or what did you want to be?
So that's a great question. So I think very young Deb, like when I was, before I hit 10, I knew I wanted to travel the world, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. So I wanted to travel. I wanted to see lots of different places and cultures. Then when I was going through school and I was sort of learning and understanding what I was good at, I was really, really good at sciences, especially biology. So when you're making your decisions to do A-levels and go to university, I very much focused on the sciences because that's where I'd seen success in my GCSEs and my A-levels. So I did applied biology and at university, and the natural progression from there was to go and work in a microbiology lab. So when as you would expect. And so I was, really lucky. I actually got a really interesting job coming out of university. It was a contract. And it was to actually run an experiment with Cardiff University. So I should have said actually to your audience here, I'm actually based out of the UK and I live in a place called Nottingham, which is right in the middle of the country, about 2 hours straight north of London. And the role I got was very close to where I live, and it was partnering with Cardiff University, running this experiment. The company was they sterilise medical equipment for hospitals, so there was a lot of procedure around how we managed the testing that the products were sterilised to the right level. But this experiment was to speed up the process. So I ran this experiment, which was a day a week. And then the other side of that, when I wasn't doing this project, I was actually in the laboratory and I was helping run the experiments that would test that the medical equipment was sterilised appropriately. Now, what I realized there when I started, I was very young, obviously. There was a lady who also worked in the laboratory. She was testing food samples. And I was like, oh my God, like when I'm 50, am I just going to be in here? And all I'm going to do is like move from laboratory to laboratory. And that's my career progression. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, So I got to the end of the experiment. I ran the experiment, wrote up the thing, got the results. It was a success, actually. And the guy who ran the company, he offered me a job. He said, I'd love to have you come and join us here in the laboratory. I got a full-time job for you. And I said, you know what? Thanks for the offer. But I'm going to decline it. I'm going to politely decline, which was a bit of a risk at the time. So I didn't have another job to go to.
Right. Because did you even know what you wanted to do at this point?
I didn't have a clue.
You just didn't want to do this. You didn't want to get stuck here.
Well,
sometimes knowing what you don't want to do is good enough.
Well, exactly. It makes you make decisions, doesn't it? So I then said, right, I've got to find another job. So I'm going to apply for things that I think might look interesting and give me this, fulfill this desire that I've got to work in a more dynamic environment, because that's what I'd learned. I didn't want to be doing the same thing day in, day out every single day. I want to do something that was different every day. And I applied to a technology company and I got a role with this technology company called Science Systems to write QA test scripts and documentation for their product organization. They were starting to, they'd historically been a bespoke software company and they were building out a standard product offering and they needed staff to come and help them with that. So I got that job, which was amazing. And to get me going in that position to do that actual job, they actually put me on the support desk. So my first role in there.
The exposure makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to speak to customers on the phone. I got to troubleshoot and triage issues. I got to learn the product. And then once I'd done that for a few months, I then moved into the job that they'd hired me for. And, and that, so it's funny. So that was back when I was 21. And actually effectively worked at the same company because Science Systems acquired another company. I went there, and then we sold that company to another company, and then we spun out FinancialForce from there. So it's been this continual evolution of lots of different companies, over the many years that I've been working now.
That's so crazy. I didn't realize that it was one continuous journey with obviously a lot of forks in the road and pivots.
A lot of forks in the road, yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask, because this is so interesting to me. Obviously, I'm always very curious, like, what are the pivotal decisions that we make that get us to where we are? Because I always know that there's always like a point in time where we make a decision and that decision sends us on a completely different path. Now, obviously, you're the founder of this company. Now, you're also overseeing customer experience and operations. I think a lot of us believe that when you start a company, you get to decide, well, here's what I want to oversee, right? Like, I want to oversee product, or I want to be the CEO, or I definitely know I would never be a CFO because I'm not a math girly. How did you end up over this function? Like, how did you end up in the customer experience space coming off of the journey that you've just described to us?
Okay, so just to back up to when we started FinancialForce, that was a big risk for us. So myself and the founding CEO, Jeremy Roche, who was the CEO of the company Coda was a financial management software company. We sold Coda to Unit 4, and then we spun FinancialForce out of Unit 4. But Jeremy and I had this dream that we always wanted to start our own business, because then we felt like we could own our own destiny. We would be in control of the culture, and we could design the culture in a way that we wanted it to be, versus in a company where we had landed, so to speak. And it was just this moment in time working with Unit 4, who was an incredibly acquisitive and an incredibly successful European software company, and also working with Salesforce as a key partner. And Salesforce hadn't started Salesforce Ventures at that time, but they were making investments in new emerging software companies. So between Unit 4 and Salesforce, they created effectively like a joint venture, which was the vehicle for us to start FinancialForce. And so Jeremy joined that as the CEO, and I was running product at the time, running product management, at the time as Coda. Which was a really important part for me in my career journey. In the year 2000, when we acquired Coda, Jeremy asked me to go into this leadership role and start a product management function, which didn't exist at Coda, to help us bring more control to the roadmap and bring in the customer lens. And that was my first leadership role. And I was still in my 20s at the time. So he'd taken a bit of a punt on me and some of his other managers, putting us in these strategic positions when we bought Coda, because it was a much bigger software company than we were at Science Systems. So that gave me management experience. So when we started FinancialForce, we were only 27 people. We were coming out of Unit 4, which was like 3,000 nearly. And we had a small development team. So I ran all of the product and engineering function. I also started the customer success discipline for FinancialForce, and I ran support, because you wear lots of different hats when you start a new company. So from 2009 to 2014 and 15, we sort of grew we grew, and we were successfully invested in by Salesforce and Unit 4. But in 2014 and 2015, two major things happened. We had Advent International acquired Unit 4, and they delisted them. And they saw FinancialForce, whilst we had spun out of Unit 4, because they were putting investment into us, we were visible on the balance sheet. So the Advent team were really curious about, what is this FinancialForce and where is all this money going? Right. So they sent a team to do an analysis and due diligence on us, basically, as part of the acquisition. And they were really excited about the opportunity that we had at FinancialForce, and they wanted to put more investment into us. So they put about, I don't remember the exact number. They put a significant amount of investment in us to help us grow. And they wanted to see how fast we could build out the roadmap that would allow us to significantly deliver the key capabilities that we needed to compete in the mid-market space, where we were struggling with the competition at that point in time. So that was a really important moment. And as the leader of the product organization, I had to make a decision if I went down the customer success path or if I stayed to run product. And at that point in my life, my entire world was running product. I'd spent a lot of time. I was very excited and very motivated about it. And this opportunity to build out the roadmap and hire people into our part of the organization. So we went over the course of this 2 years, we built a 2-year roadmap, a 2-year plan, a hiring plan, and a roadmap delivery plan to enable us to be mid-market competitive by the end of this 2-year point. I went from 75 people in the development and product organization to 200, wow. Which was like, it's a career highlight as I look back to have that opportunity.
What was the period of time, Deb? Because that's a big... Okay, so it took 2 years for you to get that. I mean, that's still crazy.
Yeah. Well, it was actually 1 year. So we had to hire everybody in the first year. And then in the second year, they had to be productive and churn out this commitment that we'd made. And then the next thing that happened was TCV, another investor came in. They invested 100 million. And Salesforce have always maintained an investment stake in FinancialForce of just under 10%, something like that. So we've got Salesforce, we've got Advent, we've got TCV, we've got a huge injection of cash to help us grow not just the product, but also the sales and go-to-market functions to really capitalize on this investment that we made in product. And it was then sort of the following year, the investment team and the board of FinancialForce decided that they really wanted their CEO based out of Silicon Valley. And as you can tell from my accent, and I introduced myself at the beginning, I'm from the UK. The CEO is from the UK. He lived out of Oxford, and he traveled every month. He spent 2 years in San Francisco. We had an apartment there. 2 weeks in San Francisco, 2 weeks in the UK every month. So it was it was a lot of travel.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to move when he was asked, do you want to move to Silicon Valley? No,
right.
He wanted to stay in the UK with his family. And so he decided to help the board find a replacement CEO, which we did. And a new CEO joined us at the beginning of 2017. And he had a ton of experience running with Salesforce and the platform. And he came in and he saw, and at that time as well, we had a real challenge with our customer success and retention. And I should have said, when we went on this sort of growth trajectory in 2014, I handed over customer success and support and the customer functions I was running, and I dedicated my time to running the product management, product strategy and engineering organization. And the new CEO came in and we had this leaky boat effectively. He's like, we've got to get on top of this issue here with the customers. And me and him, we partnered quite heavily on a lot of different customer engagements, a lot of challenges that we were facing. He said, look, we need to go figure out what the heck is going on here. We need to understand what the problems are. We need to go fix them. And it was 2017, and customer experience was kind of an emerging function. It wasn't really a well-known discipline then, not like customer success.
Yeah.
And he's like, Deb, like, I think you need to go figure this out. And in my heart, I'm like, yeah, but I'm a product person. Like, I've been running the product organization. That's where my passion lies. He said, yes, but you know all of the customers, and this problem needs fixing. So, you could either do this, or and he gave me this option of another role, which was really not interesting to me at all. But he didn't really want me to stay in the product function. He wanted me to definitely move. He was very persuasive. And so I said, well, I'll give it a go. What's the, what role is this? He said, I don't know. You go figure it out. I'm like, well, what do I call myself? Well, You decide. I was like, okay. So I get to go. So I can't stay in product, but I can go do this new job. But you know what problem you want me to solve, but you want me to just. So it's like, in a way, it was kind of refreshing. There was no team. It's like, go build a team. So there was me doing this new job, defining a new role with no team that I had to go build. I had to go build the team. And that was a really unique opportunity in my career and a really pivotal moment, because it's very rare in your career. You get the opportunity to define your own job spec and responsibilities and go build a team like that, completely fresh. So I decided after some research that this role, this problem that we'd got and what he needed me to do was to run a customer experience function. And so I put a job description together and, put it in, is this what you want me to do? Yes, that's it. Go solve the problems and build a team. And that's what I did. But, for 6 months, I think it was at least 6 months after that, I would tell the story of this, well, I'm just in this just for a temporary period of time. Then I'm going to go back to running product. Like, my career's product. I'm a product person. That's what I should be doing. And I think that probably about after the 6-month period, I realized that I loved what I did every day. I was really motivated and really excited about this customer experience discipline that I was defining and bringing to life for FinancialForce at the time. And after 6 months passed, I was like, oh, actually, I don't want to go back to product. It's like everything that I've done in my career to date has brought me to this point where I am where I should be. Like, this is where I should be. This is what I was destined to do, to be a leader of customer facing functions. And that's I think that's how I ended up there.
All right. So there's so much I want to dig into here. All right. So I have to imagine that the initial conversation you had to have been difficult for you. And the reason why I'm going to make that assumption is because, as somebody who has built teams and have been led by other leaders, I always like to believe that people want change to happen with them, not to them. Mm-hmm. And it felt like very much in this moment, change was happening to you, not with you. Mm-hmm. You didn't get the option of staying over the function that you had built. You had designed and delivered. This was a part of who you were and how you identified yourself in the business. Mm-hmm. And now that wasn't an option for you any longer. When you were faced with this decision, which it sounds like he very clearly, or they, I don't remember if you said it was he, but they very clearly said, I want you to oversee this, and gave you two options, knowing almost that you were going to pick the option he wanted you to choose.
Yeah.
Very calculated, smart business person. I get it.
Smart business person. Yeah.
How did you feel in that moment? Because I feel like a lot of us as leaders, or just as professionals, right? We like to believe that we're in control of our destiny and that we're going along a journey that we're designing for ourselves. But that's not always the case. No. So how did you navigate that? Because I think that that's a tough thing for folks to embrace wholeheartedly, jump into that opportunity, embrace it. Obviously, you fell in love with it, which I love as a customer person. But that must have been really tough for you. How did you go about handling that, going through your decision-making process of like, do I take one of these options? Or you always have the option of leaving. And I'm sure that was something you toyed with, right? Like, you're giving me these options and I can decide I can go down path A, B, or I can choose my own adventure. And there could be a C for me. So what was your decision-making process there? How did you navigate the emotional aspect of it as well as the professional aspect of it?
Okay, that's a good question. So emotionally, I was a mess.
Okay, good. Because I would be, and I need to make sure, Deb, that I'm not the only one. Like, I would literally be in tears alone in the darkness.
Oh, no.
Trying to make heads or tails of like what my future looks like.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm going to hopefully get through the conversation without actually crying now, because it was a really emotional time in my life. And I think, and he was a very caring man and a really lovely CEO. But I remember when he said this to me, like, my whole world crashed, and I did just start crying, because I was like, what? I was like, trying to consume it, take it in. And, but he was, like I say, he was very empathetic, and whilst you say, and he very much wanted to direct me in a certain way. But he was very much appreciative, because it was like, it was like you said, I'd built this team from the ground up. We'd started the company together. That was my only thing I wanted to do in my career. And it was pulled, it's like the rug was pulled from under you, and there's just so much emotion. So after I got over the emotion, and I'm a very decisive person, so my decision was right there and then in the moment, when with all of that emotion, I didn't have to go away and think about it. I was just like, well, I am not like I am not leaving FinancialForce Certinia. This is my company. I'm not going anywhere. I want this. This sounds like an exciting opportunity to go build a new team from the ground up. I know I can do it because I just did it.
Right.
And I love working with customers, and I always have loved working with customers. And so I said, I'll do it. Obviously I'll do it. So I'm teary. I'm teary and I'm crying, but I'll do it because I want to stay. And I love what we're doing here. And I'm so committed to the organization and bought into the value proposition we bring to customers. And he was like, oh, I'm so pleased. That's amazing news. And we hugged, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then I met the chief people officer just after us, and he was like, oh, I'm so pleased. And we hugged, and I was like, I was crying still. It was a mess, but I'm so pleased that I made that move. And I feel like he was so wise that he knew that I would take to this new role. But I would never make the decision to change myself. I needed a move. And the person that he brought in actually to run product, I ended up becoming very, very good friends with. And he was amazing. He was such a great product leader. And I was like, oh, I'm giving my product over to this incredibly successful chief product officer. I couldn't imagine it going to a better person, and it all sort of came together. And he was so humble when he took it over. And I was like, there's things that aren't perfect, and this, we're working on fixing this thing, and we've got these. He said, Deb, you built a product from the ground up on a brand new platform. He said, nothing's going to be perfect. Don't worry about it. So he was very gracious in the, taking over, handing the baby.
You know what? I didn't even think about that emotional aspect of it, of you're not only being redirected professionally, you're also now giving your baby, literally the thing you built from the ground up, to somebody else who is going to peel back all of the onion and see it for what it is and make judgment on it. And I am a proud person, probably a little bit more too much ego at this stage in my career, but I would be really sensitive to that. So I'm also really grateful that you had a partner in that role who saw it for the wonderful work that it was. I mean, obviously you guys built a very successful company, and you couldn't have done that without a solid product. It's where it starts. So a lot to be proud of. And I'm glad that you were able to find somebody who could partner with you and really see the value of all the hard work you'd put into it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Exactly. I mean, I could cry just going on this journey with you, Deb. I'm like, even still, and you're still on this journey. It's so crazy to me that this has all been part of the same journey for all of these years.
The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all-in-one customer success platform to help post-sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry-leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in-depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data, so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success.
We have to talk about a couple things, because one of my favorite things, I mean, obviously there's a lot of pivotal things that happened here, but I want to talk about some of the challenges that you had to face, because like all of us, we have to overcome obstacles professionally, personally, right? All of these things. I mean, you're also, let's not forget, yes, you are a C-level founder in tech, but you're also a mom. and wife, and like you're all these other things. Let's talk about some of the challenges you had to navigate on this professional journey for all of these years.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that one of the areas that's been a challenge, and I think this is probably more early days than today. Often in a leadership role back in the early 2000s, I was often the only woman in the room. You'd go into a boardroom or you'd be in a board meeting or an executive committee meeting, and there's not very many women there. You could count them on one hand. And in those moments, you feel it can be quite daunting to speak out. You might have some ideas or something to contribute, but to be brave enough to say what you think in the moment is difficult. And you try and sort of blend in and act like one of the guys. And I always found that difficult to find my voice and to be confident enough to speak up and realize that you aren't going to get judged for what you say. And the CEO who I started the company with was a key mentor for me throughout my career. And he had this saying, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If it's in your head, ask it. And he really gave me the confidence to speak up in these moments where, you don't feel naturally that it's your place to speak. So that, I think that's been one of the big things over the years that's one of the challenges that I feel like I've personally had to overcome. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have had to overcome a similar sort of challenge and find that voice and make it heard.
What's interesting about that is I think you were in a leadership position probably when I was earlier in my professional career, but much like what you described, I just didn't see a lot of female leaders. To be very honest with you, I think they kind of stopped at middle management in my experience, and where I was is maybe director level, but anything above that was definitely all male. And so for me professionally, I found myself emulating the behaviors of men.
Yeah.
And those traits didn't disappear over time. And I kind of carried those traits and behaviors with me, and it never served me well. And this is why I think it is so important for women to be in these positions, because it's not only important for the business, and we've seen that, right? The statistics show that when you have women in these positions of leadership, businesses thrive, right? Diversity is important. But for me professionally, I think it did a lot of harm for me because of how I led and the style and the behaviors I demonstrated as an early leader, because I ruled the way I saw the men before me lead.
Yeah.
And it just, I think professionally it's really tough on a lot of folks because you can't be what you can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And I found myself that similarly, trying to blend in, operating how I saw men operate, because when you look at the different leaders around you, most often they are men. So you do tend to sort of mirror the behavior of the people that you see around you. And I think that one of the things that you obviously have come through this same sort of journey, but now we celebrate our uniqueness. The fact that we are women is something to be celebrated and something to be proud of. And like you say, we do bring a different perspective to the table, and that is important to help drive decision-making, innovation, whether that's organizationally, product, whatever. And I think that that is valuable and is also necessary for us as we build successful organizations.
Well, while we're on the topic of success, you've obviously had some of those moments as well. We've talked about a lot of the pivots, a lot of the challenges you've had to navigate. My favorite thing to talk about on this show is to really pause a moment and to celebrate successes, because what I see all ambitious women do is we hit a milestone, we achieve some big goal, and then we're already focused on the next 3 things that we're trying to chase down. And we don't ever pause to celebrate the success that we've had. Now, your career, the way that, even just hearing your story here, it's riddled with success. There are so many things for you to be proud of. When you reflect back, what are the 1 or 2 things that are like standout things that you're like, oh my gosh, I did that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's got to be, it just has to be starting FinancialForce and then developing working with the different leadership teams that we've had in the organization to build it into the brand that it is today as Certinia. And so starting the company was a proud moment, but it's being successful with that new company that creates the moment that I'm probably most proud of. And I remember this milestone where we hit 100 million in revenue. And it's like, when we were struggling around when we first started, for 20K deals, 10K deals.
Yep.
Can we hit 20,000, 20 million? Can you hit 30 million? But to hit 100 million and to get beyond 100 million, I think that is the proudest moment, because you've got an organization that is thriving and everything's working well for you to hit that kind of milestone and to get over that and to continue to grow. That is what I'm most proud of. And seeing all the people here at the organization, we've got some fantastic people and we've got a great culture. And when I read what people say about the company, people love working here. We have a great culture. That dream that Jeremy and I started with, that we wanted to have a culture in a place that we wanted to work at, we got that here and we created it. And I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. You're killing me here. I'm literally like, okay, I'll come work for you, Deb. It's fine. What do you want me to do? You can design my career. I'm bought in. I'm sold. I want to work for you. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay. Like I said, we were going to try not to cry, but this is now the second episode back to back I've recorded where I'm a mess.
Oh my gosh. We're getting softer as we get older. That's what it is.
You can't not, though, when you reflect back on that. You look at what you built. Like I said, even before I knew you, I knew of FinancialForce. I knew of this company. It has a legacy that extends, and I don't even work in that ecosystem. I've never used the product. It is just a brand that is known for its power. And I knew how many companies used it. And it's so amazing. And that's your legacy.
Yeah.
So many of us will work our entire lives and not leave behind what you're going to leave behind one day. It's all the people, it's all the companies, it's the businesses. Like, you've changed lives. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it is. I think today we have nearly something. It's about 850, 900 employees globally. We have nearly 1,500 customers. Some of the biggest brands on the planet are running on our solution. And our PSA, our PS Cloud product is the number one modern global PS solution in the market. And it's won awards, it's rated on different rating products like G2 and things like that. But to have an award-winning solution being run as the basis for automating PS, helping these huge brands like Google and Siemens and Amazon and HP and Dell, and the list goes on. That is amazing.
I mean, you've built the standard that these global companies run on.
Exactly.
Isn't that wild to think about, that you did that? Like, it's crazy.
It is, but the team, it's like the team.
No, of course. But it started with a vision that you had and a passion to solve this problem. So yes, it's always the team. I get that. But this episode isn't about the team. It's about you. And so, like, let's just acknowledge the fact that without you chasing this dream and being so maniacally focused on this is the outcome, all of the people, all the companies would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't even think we need a second success, because that is one in itself. All right. Well, listen, I know that we're running down on our episode. I've got one more thing I want to dive into. If you're going to give it to me, I appreciate the minutes on this one, because I think it's important. Deb, you built something tremendous. How did you do that while raising 3 boys, while keeping a home and balancing life and yourself, right? We are in ourselves are people that need to be cared for. And how did you do that? How did you do it all?
I think that there's a couple of things. Balancing you'll know this as well, Christy, bringing up as well children, but having a balance between work and your family life. So creating some distinction and boundaries between those two lives to make sure that you develop your children and you give them enough time and attention that they need to be successful doing what they're doing. But then at the same time, you've got time committed to work, and whilst you're at work, you're completely focused on that. So I found that to be really helpful for me. And then I try to layer in exercise every day. Do something every day. It doesn't matter whether it's a bit of flexibility on a yoga mat or going out for a 20-minute walk, but just something that helps you keep your mind clear. And I find like going for a run, for example, or going for a swim, I can fix so many things in my head whilst I'm doing that activity. So I think that there are a couple of key recommendations from me to be successful balancing life is creating the boundaries, having the distinctions, and then finding some time to have something for yourself, some exercise or whatever it is that gets people going.
I love that. I'm currently training for my very first marathon, so Ooh. I'm with you on the running stuff. It's cool. The only time of my day where I don't have a device in front of me.
Yeah.
Which I have found that in itself is like the most freeing thing. It's just me alone, or usually it's my husband running with me, but I'm not connected to anything other than where I am in that moment. And it is something that allows me to clear my head and be present, which is just super powerful. And I encourage everybody to find whatever it is, not necessarily running, but whatever it is that allows you to have that moment of peace and clarity to chase that and prioritize it.
And which marathon are you going to do first?
I am doing the New York City Marathon in November.
Wow. Fantastic. That's
I am
so exciting.
Terrified, but it will be great, I think. I'm in week 7 of training, so I'm just hitting double digits on my runs right now, but I've already done half marathons, so I haven't run my furthest yet. So I haven't gone past the half distance yet. Yeah. I think that moment of hitting 14 miles will be that moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm really doing this. So I'm not in full panic mode just yet.
Awesome. Good luck with that.
See. Well, thank you very much. All right. Listen, Deb, before we wrap up today, I want you to leave our listeners with something that they can take away with them. So if you got to leave us with one thing before we wrap up, what is that?
Yeah. The one thing is know who you are, celebrate your uniqueness, understand your importance, speak up when you've got something that you want to say and share. And this is probably more than one thing, but I think it's that: show up, be yourself, celebrate your uniqueness. And if you can, find a mentor, somebody who you can talk to, advise you, coach you through your career. I have taken huge value out of having a mentor, and I do strongly recommend that.
I love that. I think that is such sound advice. All of those points, super important. So I hope everyone is taking notes. Well, Deb, thank you so much for your time today. Your story is, beyond inspiring. I am so grateful that you've given me the time today to share all of that with us and my listeners. So just really appreciate hearing your journey from you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the journey as well. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting.
Wonderful. Well, for folks listening, if you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with us both on LinkedIn. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Hi guys, I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.